Welcome to part 2 of solving word problems with multiplication and division. As a quick review, these videos are going to be using the SCATE strategy, and this is just an acronym that we're using to make sure we do all the steps to help us be successful with word problems. The S in SCATE stands for situation. That talks about knowing what's going on in the problem. The K stands for know, which means you go back and ask yourself, what facts are in the problem and what things do I already know? The A stands for asking. What are they asking you to do, or what question are they asking you to answer? And that's when we really break out our 4 operations strategy to figure out which one of these are they asking you to use. Then for T, we're going to be doing try it. That's basically where you solve the problem. And then finally, you're going to explain your answer with a sentence. You're going to either answer the question, or in the explain step, you're doing the task they ask of us. So here's a new problem, and we're going to use the SCATE strategy. So to get ready, I'm going to draw my 4 box, and I'm going to label SKATE. Here we go. Gigi is helping out at a clothing drive. She got 13 boxes of shirts, and each box has 35 shirts in it. How many shirts did Gigi get for the clothing drive? So the first step is S for situation. I got to think about what's going on. Well, in this problem, we have a person named Gigi, so I'll put a G above her, and she's at a clothing drive. Okay, I can picture that. And at this clothing drive, she's got these boxes. So I'm going to draw some of these boxes, and then I'm going to do dot, dot, dot. That means there's more. I didn't show all of them. I don't want to actually have to draw all the boxes. And then it told us that each box has 35 shirts in it. So this box has 35 shirts, this box has 35 shirts, and this box has 35 shirts. Okay, I can picture that. I can almost see her. She's standing there, and there are 13 boxes around her. And if I were to open up every box, each one would have 35 shirts in it. I get the situation. The next step is know. What do we know? What are the facts? So when I go back into this problem, I can see one of the facts is that she's got 13 boxes of shirts. So here I just drew my 3 boxes and then the dot, dot, dot. But now I know there's 13 of these boxes. I might even circle that. There are 13 of these. And then I see there's another fact in here. Each box has 35 shirts in it. So that's another fact. I know there's 13 boxes. I know they all have 35 shirts. So we figured out what we know. We've got the facts. Now I'm going to move on to A. A means what are they asking? So I'm going to go back into the question or back into the story problem, and I'm going to look for the question or the task. Often the question or the task is at the end. And I see here it is at the end. How many shirts did Gigi get for the clothing drive? And I'm going to circle how many. How many means I'm being asked to give an amount. So my answer should be how many shirts. I'm going to go in and box the word shirts. My answer label will be shirts because that's what I'm figuring out. And then I'm going to set up my operations organizer. I have to figure out if I'm being asked to add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Looking back at the problem, I need to figure out, am I putting something together? Am I putting together, like adding over and over, or putting together pieces? Or am I taking something apart? So I've got to figure out, is Gigi taking a box of shirts and splitting them up? Is she taking those boxes, those 13 boxes, and splitting them equally? Or is she taking the shirts from every box and adding them together in one big pile? When I picture this problem, I picture 13 boxes, and each box is full of shirts. I can almost imagine that she's taking the shirts out of the box and folding them nicely into these big stacks to figure out how many shirts she has all together. So I can see I'm not splitting the shirts up. I'm putting them all together in a big pile. So now the question I have to ask, is she adding up different amounts? Is each box different? Or is she adding the same amount over and over? Well, since every box has 35 shirts, I can see she's adding the same amount over and over. So she's not adding, she's going to be multiplying. They're asking us to multiply. All right, Now that I've got that, I can do the work. I can try it. Let me check off asking. I'm ready to try it. To multiply, I'm going to set it up with my standard algorithm. I'm going to multiply 35 shirts times 13 boxes. I'm going to slide up so I have a little extra room. 3 times 5 is 15. 5, carry the 1. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 more is 10. Now I'm ready to move on to my ones digit in the tens place, so I'll put my 0 the hero. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 3 is 3. And I can add it up. 5 plus 0 is 5. 0 plus 5 is 5. And 3 plus 1 is 4. So it looks like she'll have 455 shirts altogether. Now, because it's a story problem, I want to check my work, so I'm trying to think of a different strategy I could use to solve it. Another strategy that I feel pretty confident with is the area model strategy. So I'm going to use area model to solve the problem again and check my work. I'm going to break up 35 into 30 and 5, and I'm going to break up 13 into 10 and 3. 10 times 30 is 300. 10 times 5 is 50, 30 times 3 is 90, and 5 times 3 is 15. Let's add them up. 30 plus 90, that's 390. 50 plus 15 is 65. 5, carry the 1, and 4. Aha! 2 different strategies, same answer both times. I can feel confident that I did my math correctly. We did the try it step. All that's left is to explain my thinking. So to explain my thinking, I am going to simply answer the question. How many shirts did Gigi get for the clothing drive? Okay, Gigi got 455 shirts for the clothing drive. I got it. So this is the strategy. Let's try one more together, and then I'll give you some practice problems that you can pause, solve, and check your work. Let's check out this problem. I know it's a word problem, so before I even get started, I'm going to set up my organizer to help me remember the steps. S, K, A, T, E. All right, I'm ready for situation. A Lego competition has 4,060 Lego bricks to share equally among its 12 competitors. How many bricks will each competitor get to use? Ooh, there's no who having stuff in this question. So maybe it's a what. What has something? Ooh, the Lego competition. Okay. Well, it's not really a person. It's a bunch of people. I'm going to still draw a person. I'm going to write LC, but we know it's not really a person. It's a competition. The Lego competition has something. They have a great big bin with 4,060 Legos. I can almost picture that. I've been watching that Lego Masters show, and I see that room with all the Legos in it. You might have seen it if you watch it, or you might have seen commercials. And if you don't watch Lego Masters, or you haven't seen that commercial, you could probably still imagine a great big Rubbermaid bin filled with Legos. Now I gotta think, what are they doing with those Legos? It says here that they're sharing them equally among the 12 competitors. Oh, it's like they have a big bin and they're trying to scoop the Legos out of it into containers for each of the competitors. So this competitor gets a bin, and this competitor gets a bin. Everybody gets a bin of Legos and they're splitting them up equally. I'm going to do my dot, dot, dot trick again because I didn't draw all the competitors. So that's the situation. There's a competition. They got a bunch of Legos and they're splitting it up for all the contestants. Got it. Now I'm ready to do the know step. What do I know? What are the facts? Well, I see this number in the beginning. The Lego competition has 4,060 Lego bricks. That's what's in that great big bin in my drawing. And then what else do I know? Well, I know that there are 12 competitors. So I wrote ... but I might write the number 12 to remind me that's how many people are getting a bin of Legos. I'm also going to underline the word equally. They're splitting them up equally, so they can't give one competitor 1,000 Legos and then give another competitor 200. That wouldn't be fair. They're splitting them equally. So I know how many Legos they have and how many people they're splitting them up equally with. That's what I know. Now it's time to look at what they're asking. What are they asking me to do in this problem? How many bricks will each competitor get to use? And I'm going to circle my questioning part, which is how many. Again, we see the word how many, and that means that you're going to give a number. I'm giving a number answer. I'm going to draw my operations organizer, add, subtract, multiply, and divide. And now I have to think deeply. I have to imagine. Does the Lego competition have piles of bricks and they're putting them all together? Are they putting them back into the shared bin? Or are they taking a big bin of Legos and splitting them up? Are they separating or putting together? Well, when I picture it, they're not taking everybody's Legos and putting it back in the bin. They're not putting it together. So I can cross out these ones. Nobody's putting anything together. I know that they're taking it apart. They're taking out bricks from the bin. So now the question is, are they taking out different amounts or are they taking out the same amount every time? And I'm drawn back into this word here, equally. If they're splitting it equally, I know they're not taking out different amounts. They're taking the same amount every time. So I can cross out subtraction. They're not subtracting, they're dividing. They're splitting it up into equal groups. They're asking us to divide. So now I'm down here in the try it step, and I am ready to do the division. I'm going to start with the amount of Legos they had. They had 4,060, and they're splitting it up, draw my place value chart, into groups of 12, or into 12 groups, because they've got 12 competitors. So I'm going to divide by 12. Starting here with my 4 in the thousands place, I don't have enough to make a group of 12, so I'll make 0 groups in the thousands place. Since I made 0 groups, I use 0 pieces. 4 left over. Take my leftovers next door. So now I've got 40, and fortunately I've been practicing my 12s. If I hadn't been practicing my 12s, I probably need to come over here and make a table of multiples, and I would need to go down and build my 12s. So I could say 1 group of 12 is 12, and 2 groups of 12 is 24, 3 groups of 12 is 36, 4 groups of 12 is 48, and 5 groups of 12 is 60, and then I need to keep on going. Now, fortunately, I've been practicing my multiplication facts. I've got these memorized, so I don't have to build that chart. But if you don't have your 12s memorized, you would need to build that chart in order to be successful. So looking here, I've got 40 divided by 12. I know I can make 3 groups, and that would use 36 pieces, and that leaves me with 4 left over. I move that next door, and now I'm working with 46. I still only have enough to make 3 groups. Do my subtracting, and I have 10 left over, so I'll take my 10 next door. Now, I don't think I'm going to be able to write that very nicely in there. I think if I try to squeeze the 10 in, I'm not going to read it. So I'm going to rewrite it clearly. Now I'm working with 100. Ooh, that one's big. Well, I know 5 groups of 12 is 60, and 6 groups of 12 is 72, and 7 groups of 12 is 84, and 8 groups of 12 is 96. Wow, that's really close. I know if I do another group of 12, I'll go over. So I'm going to make 8 groups of 12 and use up 96 pieces, and that leaves me with 4 left over. So my answer is 338 with a remainder of 4. Since this is a story problem and I've been working really hard, I'm going to check my work. 338 times 12. 2 times 8 is 16. Carry the 1. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 more is 7. 2 times 3 is 6. Now I can do my 0 the hero. 1 times 8 is 8. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 3 is 3. Add it up. And then I need to add in that remainder of 4, which gives me, yes, 4,060. And that was what I started with. I can be confident my answer is correct. Which leads me to the explain step. My last job is to answer my question with a sentence. So I'm going to go back into the story problem, which asks, how many bricks will each competitor get to use? I'm going to double underline the word bricks. That's going to be my label. I'm telling how many bricks. So I can write, each competitor will get to use 338 bricks. There will be, and I can tell about my remainder, 4 extras. So this is our strategy. The next slide has one more sample problem, but I'm not going to talk my whole way through it. Instead, I'm going to give you a few minutes to try it out, so please pause the video on this slide, try out our strategy, and then after you unpause, I will show you my work and you can compare. Did you use the skate strategy correctly? All right, go ahead and pause the video. Check to see, did you set up your skate organizer correctly? This is a great opportunity to make sure you're using the strategy. Then go ahead and pause and try to work through the situation, what you know, and what they're asking you to do. Pause again, because when you restart the video, you'll see my answers for the S, K, and A steps. All right, I hope as you looked through that you realized that we have Marco, and he's got these pallets of Sprite, and I've got my 3 dots in there again because I didn't write down the exact amount of pallets. I did also put in there that each pallet has a certain number of bottles, and it got repeated over and over. So when I got to the asking step, we realized that we're repeating this number, 132, over and over. It's like I'm adding up all the bottles from every pallet all together. To do that, we will need to multiply. All right, go ahead and pause the video again and solve the try it and explain steps. When you unpause the video, you'll be able to check your answers against my work. All right, check your work. In the try it step, I used the standard algorithm to multiply 132 times 6, and then I used the area model to check my work, and I got the same answer both times. So then I used the explain step to answer the question, how many bottles of Sprite will he put on the shelf? And I wrote, Marco will put 792 bottles of Sprite on the shelf. If you didn't get the correct answer, or if you didn't solve this correctly, go back and see if you can figure out what tricked you so that next time you can avoid that mistake. Once you finish this video, go back to our review page and look at some of the practice problems. Try them out and use the answer bank at the bottom to check your work. Then use the quizzes to make sure you are ready to retest this skill. Thanks for working hard.